horses and burros roaming in public lands across 10 western states. The problem is that the land allocated to them is only set to support up to 27,000 animals. The BLM, in order to reduce the number of horses on the range to try and get it closer to the appropriate management level of 27,000, they conduct roundups where they gather wild horses and burros, take them to holding facilities, and then offer them up to the public for adoption. The trouble is that there's about 60,000 wild horses and burros in off-range holding facilities right now as well, and these holding facilities are nearing capacity. So what we do here at GEMS is try and promote adoptions and get horses out of holding facilities and into private homes. One of the biggest barriers to adoption is training, because to adopt an untrained Mustang or burro requires specific facilities and expertise in how to convince a 1,000-pound wild animal to be your friend. So one of the primary things we do here at GEMS is our training and adoptions program. So I'll show you guys through our facility here. So this is our semi-offloading chute here. At one point we were moving so many horses out of holding facilities at a time that the BLM requested that we build a semi-offloading chute so we could take in more horses at one time. So the semi-truck can back up to this offloading chute, and the horses go down the chute and into this intake pen. So as we go through the facility, you'll notice that the fencing is all built in a specific manner. It's all at least 6 feet tall, and it's all solid fencing. So when the horses are new or recently gathered, they can even jump out of a 6-foot paddock. So it's really important to have facilities that are safe for the horses and safe for us to work with the horses in as well. These are a couple of Mustangs here. This is Dakota. This Mustang belongs to my husband. He is a really special guy. Dakota is also one of our Ambassador Mustangs, so when we go out to preschools and things like that, public events, Dakota is the guy who we take, and despite how big he is, he's super gentle with the kids and really enjoys people. Okay. This is Vertigo. So from our intake pen here, we have this specific alley system. So when the new horses get here, they can be in this big intake pen that can hold quite a few Mustangs at a time. But when it's time for them to be sorted and sent out to network trainers, other tip trainers, adoptive homes, or into training pens for ourselves, we push them through this alley. So we open up this gate and they go up through this alley. This alley system was built with the advice and help of the BLM employees that were at Canyon City at the time. They obviously know what works for them, what doesn't work for them, what they wish they had at their facility, what you must have at any facility when you're sorting and loading wild horses. And so they were really helpful when Michelle was building this facility to begin with. A lot of the principles that are used in the construction of this alley system are from how Temple Grandin designed chutes to move livestock through. So you'll notice that there aren't any hard corners in here. It's wide enough that the horses aren't too claustrophobic, and all of the corners are easy, rounded corners for horses to pass through easily. So from this alley system, we can sort horses into any of these smaller paddocks. These paddocks also can hold quite a few horses. Right now, mostly they're holding horses that are here in training and available for adoption. This is Shania and Rusty over here. Both of them are good saddle trained Mustangs that are adoption pending right now. Go in this pen. In this pen we have Shanoa, who's the medicine hat pinto, and she is adopted. She's just waiting for her owner to get the facilities set up for her at their house, and then she'll be going home. Captain Jack is on the left. He's the big sorrel. He's originally from San Wash Basin and went through a tip trainer, was adopted out, and that situation just wasn't a good fit for him. The adopter reached out and was pretty convinced that he was traumatized and needed sanctuary, but since he's been here, he's taken to training really well. You'll notice he was really introverted when he got here, and would kind of shut down within himself. So now he's pretty gregarious. He really enjoys interaction, and he is a nice extroverted guy who likes the attention. So he's rehabbing really well and eventually will be up for adoption. Hey, buddy. In this pen we have Leo and Lexi. These two horses came here originally. They both had an owner. They came last fall to be saddle trained, and after they went home they were doing really well, but their owner went through some personal issues at home, and so they have come back here to look for a new home. So Lexi's coming up here. She's very gregarious. She loves people. She's very gentle. She was actually trained for the lady's young daughter to ride. So she is a very sweet little grade horse. She's not actually a Mustang, but she's a little grade horse that'll make a great horse for anybody. This is Leo over here on the left. He's also a super fun horse to ride. these two horses will be posted on our website here pretty soon. We just haven't got a chance to get photos and videos of them yet. Hi guys.
This is your sneak peek.
Yeah, this is the sneak peek to our adoptable horses here. So at the end of this alley here we have the round pen that we use for sorting horses out. So anytime we need to separate horses from a larger group of horses, we can push them into the round pen and cut them back one by one. And then this is the loading chute where we'll back up a trailer and load horses up through the trailer like that. Let's show you guys our training pens back here with our more wild horses. So back here we usually keep our more wild horses that are still in the genitling process. This pen's really nice because we can sort them either into the big round pen here or into these smaller training pens. So this is where the three Onyxy horses that I brought back from Delta, Utah are. So this is Monty. He's a nice big gelding. He is still in the gentling process, so he's still pretty scared of people. But he's gonna make a super nice horse for somebody someday. Come on, guys. Over here is Maya. Maya is the one-eyed mare. So she was gathered last fall, and at some point during her time in holding she suffered an injury to her eye, and her eye had to be removed. And so in a very short period of time she was gathered, separated from her family and her baby, and she lost her eye to boot. So everything changed for this poor horse, and we were contacted by advocates and asked if we could adopt her and take her back here because of her age she was deemed sale authority. So not only would she have been open for adoption for anybody, she would have been open for sale. So we actually purchased her for $25. For sale authority horses, we get title to them right away, which just can put them in a more vulnerable position than having to go through the adoption process, because with the adoption process, they're at least protected for that first year until they get title. But with the sale authority horses, you get title right away. They're pretty inexpensive, like I said, $25. So she was deemed to be more at risk than other horses. So we purchased her. She will be an ambassador horse. She's actually come along with her training really well. She is pretty outgoing and brave and confident, so she'll stay and be one of our ambassador horses. She's also likely to be pregnant, so she might be having a foal anytime. So before the start of this virtual tour, I separated out Juno into the round pen because somebody had asked how we get started with Mustangs. So when they're freshly wild, what are the first things that we do? So I thought I'd use her as an example to show you guys what the early steps are in the training process. Stay on the edge here. Actually, you might want to step out. She might move around. So I've worked with Juno just a few times. I haven't made contact with her yet. She's generally pretty standoffish, but she's starting to get the hang of wanting to look at me and approach me. So kind of the first thing I do is I want to just kind of mill around and see where she is energetically. If she wants to run off and leave, then I'll match their energy level there. So if she wants to leave, then I'll put a little pressure on. When she looks at me, I'll take the pressure off by leaving. When she wants to walk towards me, then I'll walk away. Girl. So the very first step is just getting them to want to look at you. And you do that by putting pressure on, and I'm talking mental pressure here. I'm not saying you have to chase them. Just put mental pressure on them when they're looking away from you, and then as soon as they look at you, you walk away and take that mental pressure off. So once they're pretty hooked on and they know that they want to look at you, then I start asking for the hindquarters to see if they can pivot their hindquarters around. And by moving their hindquarters, what I get is their face. So every time I move her hindquarters away, it turns her nose towards me again. So I'm just shifting back and forth, putting my laser vision on, asking her hip to move over, and each time her hip moves over, I take the pressure off by walking away. Once that is looking pretty good, then I'm going to start approaching her. And when I start to approach her, I'm going to approach her from the side and stick my little horse nose out there. I'm turned to the side so that there's less pressure on the horse. And this looks like a nice friendly horse nose that would introduce them the way that two horses introduce each other. So I'll kind of sidestep up to the horse. I'm not trying to sneak up to the horse. I'm moving with rhythm, but my energy is off, and I'm only going to proceed until I reach one of her thresholds. So how I'll know that I reach her threshold, or like the edge of her bubble, is she might tense up, she might start looking like she wants to leave, and that's when I'm going to respect that threshold, stop, wait for her to relax, and as soon as she relaxes, I'll walk away. Another thing that might happen is she might take a step towards me, and that's even better. So if she takes a step towards me, then I'll walk away. Walk away. Good girl. you just start chipping away at this, and every time you approach the horse and you don't eat them, it builds their confidence. So every time I approach, she expects me as a predator to come up and eat her. And every time I prove her wrong, she starts to trust that I'm not going to eat her. So it starts chipping away at that her thresholds little by little, so that eventually her bubble gets smaller and smaller and eventually allows that contact. The cool thing is that I just worked with her for about 10 minutes this morning after I put her in here, and that was the first time I was able to get her to start taking steps towards me. And as soon as I stepped in here this time, she was already taking steps towards me. So horses, especially Mustangs, they learn really quickly. Generally, if you have the situation where I hear it all the time, people say that training this Mustang is like 50 first dates where they forget things over and over again. And usually if that's the case, then you're pushing through thresholds that you shouldn't be. So if you respect their thresholds in the beginning and do things slower in the beginning, then they'll make faster progress. It seems backwards, but all they need is for you to respect their boundaries in order to build up confidence in them. So if they're not retaining the training that you had yesterday, it means that it never really sunk in. They might have been complacent and allowing you to do something, but they weren't totally participating in the experience. So I love to see that I come in here and right away she's taking steps towards me. Good girl. So you could see right there that was a little bit of a threshold for her. So I wanted to stay and see if she could tolerate my presence for a little bit longer. And you could see her just kind of take her head away and go, I don't know about you being that close. And so all I did was stay there. I wasn't going to progress any further to advance the pressure. And I didn't want to remove the pressure when she was weary like that either. I was just going to stay there right at that same level I was at and wait for her to relax. As soon as she relaxed by looking back at me and breathing out, that's when I take the pressure off. Because every time I take the pressure off, I'm rewarding the behavior that just happened. So I want to reward behaviors based in relaxation. It's really pretty cool that with these Mustangs in a very short period of time, you can, without any ropes on them or anything like that, you can influence their movements and you can start to have a conversation with them even at a distance like this. So it's a lot of patience, it's a lot of doing the same thing over and over again until that first touch comes, but it's super rewarding.
Rory, Lizzie, stop.
Now we'll go down through this pasture. This is where our Ambassador Mustangs live. So our Ambassador Mustangs are trained horses that are, most all of them are saddle trained. There's a couple of them that we don't ride. One because of age, and the other because she never quite got the hang of being a riding horse. But these are nice, friendly Mustangs, trained Mustangs that people can interact with and participate in clinics with and take lessons on and learn how to communicate with Mustangs before they get their hands on a more wild one. So these guys are members of our family. They're here forever. They're not up for adoption, but they get to experience a lot of love here through our programs. From the Sandwash Basin. These three came from the last gather. This is Toshka, and Toshka was pregnant when she was gathered. She was passed up at the Fruta adoption event, and we wanted to make sure that she had a safe place to go home and foal instead of going back to a holding facility and foaling there. So we brought her home here. She was a super sweet mare right from the beginning. She gentled really easily. And then this little nugget here was the foal that she was carrying. She's 3 years old now, so she's pretty big. Her and her mama both are pretty tall for Mustangs. Lily will start being saddle trained this year, just really lightly. At this age we don't ask anything too physically demanding of them, but getting them used to carrying a rider is perfectly fine. Then eventually she'll be one of our saddle trained horses for our programs. All right. This over here is Demi. Demi has a really unique story that a lot of you already know. So I'll show you this side of her neck over here. So Demi has the big U, and this is the same Frise brand that Maya will have also, and that symbolizes that they were Sale Authority. So the reason Demi was Sale Authority was not only because of her age, but because she's not actually a Mustang. She was a domestic horse that around the 2008 recession, somebody turned her out into the Sandwash Basin thinking that that was going to be the best thing for her. They couldn't take care of her, and then they turned her out to be with the wild horses. Unfortunately, domestic horses aren't very well equipped to handle life in the wild like that. So Demi really struggled out there for quite some time. When she was gathered and she got here, her feet were in really poor shape. She was lame because of that. She was super underweight. Her teeth needed done. but the funniest thing was she unloaded out of the loading chute there, and all the other wild horses shot down to the corner of the pen, and Demi turned right around, walked up into the stall, and took a big sigh like, finally, I'm here and these people will take care of me. And she was very clearly, she knew people. She stood there and let everybody rub her all weekend long, and through training we realized that she was likely saddle trained at some point. We don't ride her anymore. She's kind of old and arthritic at this point, so she just gets to be loved on by people here. But she'll stay here and live out her days. So she has a really unique story to tell. This Palomino is Carmen. She's actually not a Mustang. She's an honorary Mustang. She was one of my rescue horses that I had with me when I moved out to Gems. And then in the back we have Reba. Reba is a really great saddle trained Mustang that we use for our programs. And then over in the distance there, that's Lucy. Lucy is a horse that went through the Extreme Mustang Makeover program and then eventually was passed through different homes until she wound up at an auction, was purchased by a kill buyer, and she was still not titled during this time, so we had to go to the kill buyer with the help of the BLM and get her out of there, because technically they didn't have a legal right to own her because she was still property of the BLM. So she has another interesting lesson to learn. Interesting lesson to teach people, that is. There's no reason for her to end up at a kill buyer. At any time, if you have an untitled Mustang that you don't have a place for, the BLM will always take them back. And that's a much nicer life than being purchased by a kill buyer and perpetuating that whole cycle. All right, so that's kind of a tour of our front facilities, our training and adoption program facilities, what we do up here. Next we'll get in the Rover and go out back and show you guys the sanctuary. So now we're coming up on the sanctuary herd. They're pretty spread out, so I'll try and get you guys close to see all of our horses. Out here we have 27 horses who live more or less like they would in the wild. They live out here with minimal human interaction. We don't feed them, we don't, take care of them as we do the domestic horses. Out here they travel a lot every day, and that's what wears their feet down and keep their feet healthy. They have enough land out here. They have about 700 acres out here that they're able to eat and fend for themselves all year round and stay nice and plump. And they also have a spring-fed pond out here that they get water out of. So these horses live like they would in the wild. And the horses that ended up out here have gotten here because they just didn't quite fit into the domestic world for either physical, mental, emotional reasons. Some of them have physical issues that made it so they were better off in this kind of setting. Some of them just wanted to hold on to their wildness a little bit more. And we're really proud to have this to be able to offer the horses that need it. So we'll park here and then walk a little bit. So off to the right, this big sorrel gelding is Calypso. He was released out here the year before last. He's from San Wash Basin, and he just really didn't get the hang of being domesticated. He had a wildness in him that we wanted to respect and preserve, so he lives out here now, and he's happy as can be. Over here, the gray mares in the front, we have Saraswati, and behind her is Faith. The pinto in the back is Lola. A lot of people recognize Lola. She's one that, if you've seen her once, you remember her just because of all of her striking markings. And here's a bunch more hanging out on the hillside here. So we'll hang out here and let the horses mill around. We'll keep the view on the horses, and I will go through and answer some of the questions that were left on our Facebook posts. So one question, how many Mustangs can the sanctuary accommodate without human interference? It's a great question. So we've had forage analysis done out here before, and yeah, even though we have 700 acres, based on the forage in this region, we can actually only hold about 40 horses out here. And we have our number at 27 right now. And sometimes when we have a drought season and a rough winter, we have to supplement hay even at this number. So we're very careful with raising the number of horses we have out here, because we want to ensure that they are given the opportunity to be wild. We don't want to turn this into a big dry lot out here. And if we put too many horses out here and they overgrazed it, just like in the HMAs across the country, we would have to remove horses from our sanctuary. So we don't want that to happen. We want to promote healthy lands and healthy horses. So right now we have 27. We'll be adding 2. We'll be adding the Aniki boys once they get here. So then we'll be up to 29. We have a few horses out here that are getting quite old. They're in their late 20s. So as horses get old and pass away, then they'll open up space for new horses to come in here. But right now, we're pretty cautious about adding too many more horses. Another question, why are there so many horses in burros and holding facilities? Well, if you remember the numbers we talked about at the beginning of the tour, there's 90,000 in holding facilities, there's 90,000 in the wild right now, and the land is really only supposed to hold 27,000. So the BLM gathers about 10,000 horses a year, and those numbers are getting higher actually in the last 2 years. There was over 11,000 gathered last year. This year will likely be over 10,000 as well. So they're gathering horses to try and protect some of these lands from getting overgrazed and becoming completely useless to the horses. And then the trouble is that the adoption rates nowhere near match the rates of gather. So with 10,000 horses being gathered, on a typical year, there's only 3,000 to 4,000 horses being adopted in a year. Last year, because of the adopter incentive program, those numbers got to a record high. The BLM and Mustang Heritage Foundation and all the entities involved were able to adopt out over 7,000 horses and burros. So that's a great year for adoptions, but it still leaves a surplus of horses in holding facilities. So that's why there's so many that are in holding facilities, and That's why it takes a village to help get these horses out of holding facilities. Another question is, what do the Mustangs do in the winter? So the Mustangs in the wild, they're really good at surviving winter. One, they are eating all summer long when the forage is available, so they're packing on the pound so that they can get through the winter even if it's a cold, dry winter. Another thing they do is they hang out in low areas. So even our herd here, in the summertime, a lot of the time they're up on the higher plateaus, and right now we found them kind of down in a gully. So in the winter, when we have big snowstorms, windstorms, things like that, they'll hunker down in the low gullies to stay sheltered out of the weather. So they can go in the trees, but horses being herd animals and being prey animals, they really like to stay more in the open, and they like to stay in a place where they can see all the way around them to prevent predators from getting them. So Mustangs are really good at toughing out winter, and a lot of times they'll be eating snow when the water sources are frozen, and they can chip away and eat snow all day long just like they're eating grass, and that's how they stay hydrated when there's all the water's frozen. So they're pretty resourceful. They also put on nice big fluffy winter coats to keep them warm. Another question is, are wild Mustangs only in Colorado? No. Wild Mustangs are in 10 western states. Colorado is just one of those states. They're also found in Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, let's see, Montana, and Wyoming. Over here we have Joe. Joe is a pretty special Mustang because, if you notice, he is missing his left eye. Hey Jojo. Sweet guy. Can you show everybody your eye? So Joe actually lost his eye out here because he poked his eye on a yucca and it got infected and had to be removed. But despite that little bit of a disability, you wouldn't know it. He's still one of the lead geldings out here, and none of the other horses treat him like he has a disability. He doesn't treat himself like he has a disability. So just like Maya back in the training pens, one eye doesn't hinder a horse too much.
The other ones. And then check out the other ones. Good.
Alright, so we made it over here to another group of our herd here. These guys were on the other side of the big gully. So as we get up to these guys, I'll answer some more questions. Question: do Mustangs have to have a certain type of pen or fencing? Yes. Like we said before, Mustangs need specific kinds of fencing, not only for BLM requirements, but also just to keep the horses safe and the people safe. So the official requirements to adopt an untrained horses from the BLM is 6-foot fencing, and the fencing needs to be solid, not wire, not electric, things like that. And also the minimum pin size is 20 feet by 20 feet. They need to have shelter, access to clean water, She's very friendly. She really enjoys the attention from the people. But Mustangs come in all shapes and sizes. That's kind of the perk of them being a mutt, or a product of hundreds of years of different kinds of horses being turned out into the wild, breeding, and developing into what they are today. So they come in all shapes and sizes. Today we had one horse go out to a trainer that was only 12 hands. Even though he was fully mature, he was only about this tall. So he would make a great kids horse, or pack horse, or cart horse. It's because he has this really short, stout pony body. Crystal here, she's nice and tall. We have taller Mustangs even. Dakota that you saw earlier, my husband's horse, he's 16 hands. We have another Mustang that's at least 16 hands. Some of them are built like warm blood, some of them built like quarter horses, some are built like draft horses. They really come in all shapes and sizes and temperaments and types. So that's the cool thing, is no matter what discipline you do, no matter what you like to do with your horses, there's definitely a Mustang out there for you. You just have to look a little harder if you're looking for something specific. Another cool thing about Mustangs is that they've been shaped by nature. So they tend to naturally be a little healthier and hardier than domestic horses. They haven't been kind of messed up by domestic breeding practices, where a lot of purebred horses, just like in the purebred dogs today, there's certain health issues that are associated with certain breeds. So Mustangs don't have that because they've been bred and survive based on survival of the fittest. So the horses that are hardy and strong and have hard feet, those are the ones that live long enough to pass down their characteristics to next generations. So that's a really cool thing about Mustangs, is they have been shaped by nature. Another question, if I wanted to adopt a Mustang from Jim's, how would I do that, and would you gentle it before adopting it out? Yes, so if people want to adopt a Mustang from Jim's, you can go on our website, greatescapesanctuary.org, and under the page that says Adopt a Mustang, there is our adoption application right there. So the first thing you'll do is fill out your adoption application. And then once you fill out that, send that for approval. If you're looking to adopt an untitled horse, you'll need to fill out a BLM adoption application also. And so once those applications are complete, then we'll contact you to schedule an appointment to meet the horses that you're interested in. Right now, we are only adopting out horses that have some training. Moving forward, this year we're only going to be adopting out horses that are saddle trained. We want to improve the quality of horses that are going out to adopters. So the folks that are interested in adopting halter trained horses or tip trained horses, we will refer to you to a recommended tip trainer. Another question is, are all Mustangs branded? Yes, so you'll see on Crystal here, she has this unique Freeze brand. All Mustangs that were once on BLM land and have been gathered have a Freeze brand. So that's the BLM's way of keeping track of Mustangs throughout their life. They have started microchipping Mustangs as they come in, and they'll continue to do that, but the trouble with microchipping is, one, you can't see it. So you can see a horse from across the pasture, and if they have a Freeze brand on their neck, you can see that it's a Mustang. A lot of times you can get a picture, even from far away, zoom in on it, and be able to tell whether the horse is titled or not, the age of the horse, where the horse came from, and its unique identification number. So that's why all Mustangs are freeze branded. And some of them that are Sale Authority will have the big U like we saw in Demi and Maya also. Alright, last thing we want to show you guys is the retreat center. So back here we have 10 little eco cabins. I'll show you inside one of those. We also have facilities here for any kind of event. The yurt is a really cool little space to gather for all the sides roll up and give you a nice panoramic view of the sanctuary. And the yurt is a great space for yoga or group meetings, dancing, you name it. Again, everything's kind of winterized right now, but show you inside here. So this is a really cool little space. And again, all the sides roll up. So you get a really nice open air experience in here without bugs or the heat of the sun or anything like that. In here is the kitchen. This is a nice fully stocked kitchen. There's a fridge, freezer, all the things you need to cook things. Dining tent platform. Once our events get rolling, we'll pop up the tent here, and it provides a really nice little gathering area. Here is one of our little eco cabins. So each of these cabins are laid out a little bit differently, decorated a little bit differently. This is one that has a queen bed. It's great for couples who are coming and staying, or individuals who want to have a little bit more space. So they're super cozy little cabins. The beds are super comfortable. Really nice to stay in when we have events. The nice thing about this cabin is this super cool wraparound deck. And it's nice and peaceful. You can hang out here on the bench, see this beautiful view. It's a super peaceful place to be. You can hike out and see the Mustangs. So we rent out these cabins for our events. If we're having horsemanship clinics or other events where overnight stays are appropriate, we have these cabins available for people to rent out. They're also available for anybody to just come and stay, kind of Airbnb style. So right now everything is still winterized. Once our events start getting rolling again and we're out of quarantine land, then people can come out here and stay and rent out these cabins. For more information on renting the cabins, you can contact Petra. Her email address is programs@greatescapesanctuary.org, and she can get you taken care of. Nice way to spend a birthday getaway. Again, there's 10 cabins. Some of them are double occupancy. So comfortably we can sleep about 16 people out here. We can sleep up to 20 if there's couples in there that are sharing rooms. And another thing we offer is for people who want to host their own retreats out here. People want to host their own clinics or their own yoga retreats or anything like that. You can rent out the entire facility. So you get the help from our staff and the use of all the facilities back here. You can add on different things with your stay, like horsemanship lessons up front, different experiences with the horses, meals, etc. So you can rent out this whole facility. Obstacle course. So we have this obstacle course back here, or we can host different events, different horsemanship clinics, trail clinics. We're hosting a Colorado Obstacle Challenge Series event here this year. We have everything from the water obstacle to our fun carrot jumps that Dale built. Gates, squeeze chute, teeter-totter. Step-up platform, upright tires, more jumps. We actually have a full 31 jump cross-country course out here as well. Ride through. Have our mailbox. Little car wash here. So this obstacle course is super fun. Nice way to challenge the relationship between you and your horse. If you'd like to come out and just ride on our obstacle course, we have open haul-in days that people can come out here and ride. They can use the cross-country course, use the obstacle course, or use the big arenas out here. Here we have our big round pen. This round pin's really great for demos and clinics and things. It's our small arena. It's great for first rides. Gives horses enough room to move around and stretch out a little bit, but still is a contained area that's safe to be in with a young horse. And then we have our large arena. So this arena is great for clinics and events where we have multiple riders all riding all at once. And then attached to this big arena, we have 11 pens here. These are all Mustang safe pens, and so we can host gentling retreats up here. It's really easy to work with horses in these pens or move them through this alley up into a round pen in the arena that way, or we use these pens for overnights for clinics and events as well. Alright, now we're back up to the front, and no tour at GEMS would be complete without visiting the Burros. So we train and adopt out Mustangs, but we still like to educate people on Burros as well. So in those big numbers that are overpopulated on BLM land and managed by BLM, includes burros. So there are wild burros out there. Burros are really awesome little critters. They can do a lot of different jobs. So a lot of people in Colorado especially use burros for pack burro racing, which is pretty much like you run a race with your burro in hand, and your burro is wearing traditional gear like a pack saddle and pickaxe and things like that. So that's a really fun activity for you to do if you like to go running and things like that. Burros also make good herd guardians. They make good companions for horses. If you have just one horse and want a companion that doesn't eat quite as much, burros make a great companion. They can pull a cart. They can be ridden by small kids and small adults. Burros can do all sorts of things, and they're really fun to be around. So they're also really great little critters for people who might be a little intimidated by the size of a Mustang, but still want to get into the world of equines. All right, thank you guys for joining us on this tour. And if you enjoyed seeing what we do here and enjoyed learning about GEMS, consider dropping a donation. We are not able to host a lot of our events and tours and things like that are usually bringing in revenue at this time, so definitely consider donating if you have the chance, and we hope to see you out at GEMS once the quarantine is over. Thanks so much.